It's summer, and everything in the garden is blooming.
Summer is such a special time. The garden is full of bees and butterflies. The borage is in full bloom with its wonderful bright blue flowers. And this is, of course, a time of bounty.
As a chef, summer means an extraordinary palette of flavors, an extraordinary abundance of choice, where flavors as well are at their fullest, at their ripest.
Raymond and I will be growing 5 crops synonymous with summer. The glorious tarty strawberry, which no summer would be complete without. Fresh young carrots, succulent gooseberries, flavoursome garlic, and queen of the summer harvest, the bean. The broad beans were sown during the winter, and they're flourishing. But French beans are less hardy and will be killed by a frost. So we're planting them now with our gardener, Joe Archer.
How do you know when you have the final frost in England?
Raymond thinks I've got all the answers.
Yeah, come on, Joe.
Come on, Joe,
Well,
give it to us.
We will never be able to tell completely because it can always surprise you. Sometimes it feels like it's getting on a bit late, but you can go May, June, just to be completely sure. And not only that, then the plants are going to thrive. You know, once you get warmer temperatures and the soil's got to feel warm.
Exactly.
You know, we've had a hot day today and you can tell that it's nice and warm.
Yeah.
We give these a good water and they'll be away.
The beans were grown from seed in the greenhouse. Now the idea is to plant out only the strongest and healthiest in the garden.
So actually that one there...
Are you criticising me now?
I'm just saying, we can pick the strongest ones. That means we're going to get the best plants.
Do you want me to take that one up?
I think maybe.
Maybe, I think so.
Raymond's got the final say.
Never work with gardeners and Frenchmen. You've had it, chum.
Next, the carrots. These days we eat them all year round, but actually it's in summer when they hit their peak of flavour and texture.
It's not very straight, Joe. I'm really sorry.
That's
even
quite
with,
all right.
Even with string.
Carrots can be forgiving.
I'm not sure Raymond can. Now, why the barrier around them?
So this barrier, although it's not the most attractive thing,
Yeah.
it's very important, and this is to deter the carrot fly, because they can only fly 60 centimetres above the ground. So it's a really simple solution to stopping them.
Carrot flies feed on the carrot root, devastating the crop. We're planting 7 different varieties, so it's going to be interesting to see how they differ.
Well, this, I think, is pretty much done.
Hopefully in a week or two's time we'll see some new shoots coming up.
That's the moment I love. That first shoot you go...
Oh, it's great. When they come through, it's fantastic.
The chunky carrots we enjoy today are the result of centuries of careful cultivation.
These may not look very appetising, but they're actually the ancestors of the carrots we've planted here. In the olden days, gardeners would have picked these and chosen the ones with the biggest roots and the finest colour and texture and planted them in their gardens. And over the centuries, they were selectively bred to give them a smoother, crisper texture and the delicious flavour we enjoy today.
But the wild carrot was once in fact a potent drug and not a food to be eaten. In Kew's Botanical Library, there's an ancient Greek book of herbal medicine dating back to 512 AD, De Materia Medica, revealing how it was used.
What does he say about the carrot? Was it a useful plant medicinally?
The wild carrot, which you've got here, is seen in ancient medicine as warming. Poison is the ultimate thing for cooling you right down to the point of death.
Of course.
Death is cold.
Yeah.
Cold is bad. And that's where a carrot comes in useful.
Right.
Because carrots have the warming quality. So the seeds are the most potent. And the leaves are used in a very different way. You can chop up the leaves and you can put them with honey and you can put them onto the skin to cure skin conditions.
Oh, right. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What an amazing record.
So carrots began life as a medicine, It wasn't until the mid-19th century that modern science overtook those ancient ideas and the carrot became simply a kitchen favourite. It's early June. The strawberry plants have been in the ground for 3 months and some are flowering. For Raymond, this is a special time of year.
As a chef, I get actually very emotional about the first strawberry. Beautiful colors, beautiful acidity, sweetness, fantastic balance, and so tasty. Quite an amazing fruit. I love it so completely.
The familiar, plump, red British strawberry has only been around for a couple of 100 years. Before then, we ate the modest wild variety.
Take a walk in the countryside in the summer, and if you keep your eyes peeled, you might be lucky enough to spot these. These are wild strawberries, and these were the strawberries that everybody ate.
Then, in 1712, a French spy on a mission in South America spotted a rather more impressive fruit.
He came back from Chile with this plant. This is the Chilean white strawberry with its curiously large white fruits. It was planted in a garden in France, and later this was planted alongside it. This is a Virginian strawberry with a very sweet taste. Then nature took over.
They cross-pollinated.
And together, the size of the white strawberry and the sweetness of the Virginian strawberry gave us the garden strawberry that we know and love today.
The crossbreeding of strawberries has gone on ever since to improve flavour, texture, disease resistance and shelf life. At East Malling Research in Kent, strawberry breeder Adam Whitehouse is showing Raymond how it's done.
The most important thing, first of all, is to select the correct parents. You have to make sure that the mother and the father have the characteristics that you want.
Strawberry flowers are hermaphrodites, so to create a new variety, first Adam creates a female flower from one of the 2 parents.
It's a process called emasculation.
Oh, good.
Oh, it makes you cross your legs.
Yes, it does. It does.
And all we are left with is just what's called the receptacle. That's
Okay,
just the
so
female part of the plant.
yeah.
Then, by adding pollen from the other parent plant, he creates a crossbreed.
We just remove all the petals. That yellow is actually the pollen.
The hope is that the best characteristics of the parent varieties are combined. Once the new crossed varieties have borne fruit, they must be assessed.
So how many varieties have you got here?
There's 18,000 individual plants.
Unbelievable.
And they will all have different characteristics.
Now Raymond's not an easy man to please, and Adam may be having second thoughts letting him loose in his strawberry field.
Horrible. But that one, that's all definitely out, okay?
Okay.
Earth. It's like I've got a handful of earth in my mouth. Oh. Can I have some water, please?
Of all these crossbreeds, clearly most will be rejected. Chances are no more than one will make it to market.
That's better.
Yeah, big strawberry flavor. And then it grows. It doesn't stay there. That one, please, I want to grow it in my garden, okay? Can you keep it aside? Well done, that time. It was so bright.
Finally! I thought we'd never get there. In the garden, our carrots have been in for 12 weeks and should now be ready to harvest.
Oh, look at that, see?
Well, that's a lovely purple one. Carrots were first cultivated about 1,000 years ago in Afghanistan, and they were purple like this. But there were also reports of white carrots, yellow, red. They didn't come to Europe until the 13th century, and to Britain not until the 17th century. Now you may be thinking, hang on a minute, purple carrots, white carrots, what about the orange carrot? That's what we know and love. Well, curiously, there's no history written down that records the development of an orange carrot. There's a lovely story that the Dutch may have cultivated an orange carrot in support of William of Orange, but that could just be apocryphal. But whatever its origins, it's this orange carrot that has now come to dominate our culinary traditions. And even Raymond, who, as we know, loves his different varieties, will go for an orange carrot. It's a French nonce. Have we got any of those?
Yep, there you go.
Oh, perfect.
Voilà, I've got my beautiful non-carrots ready to be cooked straight away from the garden.
Raymond's cooking a carrot, cumin and barley summer stew.
So now wash, a quick wash. I like to leave the skin on the carrots, and by scrubbing them, so I keep all the goodness, all the vitamin, all the flavor.
The Nantes variety of carrot was originally bred back in 1885 and is known for its sweetness and crisp texture.
Look, very small, woody part. That's why it's one of the world's best carrot. All flesh, all flavor and juice.
They're cooked in carrot juice and seasoned with salt and cumin.
I cook them in cow juice, okay, to really give them more flavor, to intensify the carrot, to have a real carrot experience. That's what I'm doing.
The carrots are left to simmer for 15 minutes.
And you notice there's this orange pigmentation at the surface of it, like green on a pond. It is good stuff. Because that pigmentation is called beta-carotene, and it's vitamin A, okay, and it's really fantastic for health. Okay, so I think let's leave it in. Makes sense. Yeah, voilà.
Next, Raymond prepares the rest of the stew. An onion and a red chilli are fried in rapeseed oil.
So I'm sweetening my onions, so I'm removing all the aggressive part of the onions. The chili is going to spice it up perfect. So then I'm going to add beautiful barley. So now my carrots should be ready.
The carrots are drained and put to one side.
Look at these colors, look at that, all that goodness and freshness.
The carroty stock is added to the barley.
Voilà. The spicy carrot juice will go inside of the barley, swallow it up to a beautiful, perfect pearl, okay? And same time, the barley will release some of its starches, create a beautiful jus at the end of the dish. Hopefully.
The barley and spicy carrot juice is left to simmer. Next, he chops cooked sweet corn, which together with the chunks of carrot will be caramelized in rapeseed oil.
Voila, you can hear lovely nose. Lots of flavor. Sweet corns.
Once all the natural sugars in the carrots and the sweet corn have caramelized, they're put to one side. After 50 minutes, the barley is cooked.
Okay, and look how the grain have already swollen. The barley, through that gentle simmering process, has taken 3 times its own volume.
To give the dish a summery freshness, Raymond's adding Swiss chard.
There's 2 parts. There's the stalk and the leaves. They'll cook in separate times.
First he adds the stalks and the sweet corn kernels. Then after 5 minutes, the Swiss chard leaves go in.
And that's going to cook down in no time. 1 minute, that's it.
The juice of half a lemon.
Because you want the sharpness, because you've got the sweetness of the carrot, so you want that balance to bring back complete life.
And finally, the caramelized carrot chunks go into the stew.
The carrots have a chunkiness, beautiful texture, beautiful earthy flavors. Voila. That's really from the pot. Look at these amazing colors. It's a true celebration. I got a lovely jus as well. Then up, a little bit of a sweet corn, and voila. From Kew Garden to your plate. My lovely Adam, can you come and share a meal with me?
Chef.
Have you brought the wine, by the way? Where is the wine?
No.
You see, with that, I would love to have a little puy frisé. Have you got it?
No.
Adam, oh,
Not
Adam.
till after work.
Oh, no, you're terrible. It's lovely, yeah?
Nice mild spice
Yeah.
on the, from the cumin.
And chunky. I love the biting of the barley. But I still miss my glass of white wine, Adam. You're not a very generous
I'll go
man.
and find you one.
Oh, my lovely Adam. You're a big egg.
It's late June. The summer sun is drawing in the crowds to Kew. And our kitchen garden is proving something of a hit. But for Joe, this brings new anxieties.
To be honest, I'm a little bit worried about maybe the visitors getting a bit tempted. Everything is right there, it's good enough to eat, and we need to save it for Raymond.
And it's not just visitors that are tempted by our produce.
Young, fresh growth, juicy growth means the chance of lots more pests coming to try and eat that. So we're going to be putting up a lot of barriers in the garden and protective structures to keep our crops safe.
But already our beans have come under attack from aphids.
When you start to get a small colony of aphids, you really want to try and get in there as quick as you can and try to eliminate them, because very quickly they can turn into this huge population. One of the best ways is just to try and get in there. Not a pretty job, but you can just almost wipe them off. You know.
Really? So you literally just kind of mass
And this will kind of,
aphid killing?
That's right, yeah. They're sucking the sap out of the plant, and that can really change how the leaves look, how they develop, and more importantly, how the beans develop.
As the aphids feast on the plant, they secrete honeydew, which in turn is eaten by ants.
They actually farm the aphids and try to keep them in one area.
No,
And
so they're
quite
sort of
brutal.
corralling them?
They're corralling them, that's right, yeah. In some cases, they'll actually take off the wings, or they'll literally keep picking them up and putting them in one place.
No way. That's absolutely astonishing. This is what I love about this. You've got a whole little ecosystem going on just at the top of a bean.
Beans have been cultivated for millennia as food for both people and animals. They're not only easy to grow and store, but produce a large yield from a small amount of land. In Kew Palace's kitchen, food historian Ruth Goodman has unearthed a bean recipe dating back over 600 years.
You always think of beans as being a kind of peasant dish.
Yes.
Is this what you're cooking up today?
Well, I'm not. This is one of the few dishes that crosses social divides.
Okay.
So it first appears as a recipe in the very first of all British cookery books. Wow. The earliest of all, which is 1390, and was written as a record, quite deliberately, of the cooking from Richard II's court.
Wow.
And in this book is a fried beans recipe.
Right.
So what we want now is some herbs.
Okay.
Beans are fried in goose fat with herbs and onions.
In with the onions.
Before the potato hit our shores, beans were our staple crop, eaten by everyone across society.
Lovely, lovely. Now that's going to go back on the stove.
Okay.
Whereas vegetables were seen as lowly peasant food and meat fit only for kings.
So there was an idea that a king's body actually worked differently from an ordinary oik like me. That the fire in your belly to cook your food was different. So a king had a very gentle fire because he was noble born. So he needed gentle food that would digest easily.
Oh, right.
Whereas somebody more common, like me, a bit more earthy, had a much hotter fire. And if we ate the same food as the king, it wouldn't do us any good at all. It would just burn up and go to nothing. And vice versa, a king should be very careful about eating a peasant's food because he wouldn't be able to digest it.
But a king and a peasant could eat these.
This is one of those rare crossover dishes. Yeah. But a king wouldn't be advised to eat too much of this. This would be a nice little extra thing for a bit of variety.
Right.
Bring it over. It's not the world's prettiest dish.
That's good.
It is, and I think any recipe that has been thought worthy of putting in a cookery book for over 500 years...
Yeah, it's got to be good, hasn't it? It's got to be good.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
My God, they grow so fast, those bloody weeds.
In the garden, our trusty friend the bee is busy turning the strawberry flowers into fruit. They do this by dusting pollen onto the centre of the flower as they search for nectar, causing it to swell into the familiar berry. Kew scientist Phil Stevenson is checking how our fruits are coming along.
Each strawberry flower needs quite a few visits to actually pollinate it sufficiently to produce a good quality fruit. You can see here there's a misshapen fruit. It's because it hasn't been visited enough, it hasn't been pollinated sufficiently. So each flower needs to be visited quite frequently, over a few days, to actually produce the fruit.
But disease, pollution and climate change have devastated our bee population. And for strawberry growers, this is a huge problem. So scientists are experimenting with training bees to favour strawberry flowers over other plants by luring them with scent. Phil is collecting the smell of our strawberries.
We turn on the pump, and that then draws out air from inside the chamber, and it draws it out across a filter, like this, and the chemicals that make up the odour of the flower are then absorbed onto this.
So they get sort of trapped into that, do they?
The strawberry scent is taken to Newcastle University, where Professor Geraldine Wright is running an experimental bee training camp. The bees get a squirt of strawberry perfume, followed by a nectar reward.
If they smell a flower scent in association with the food that they get, they will remember. They'll form a very strong, lasting memory. And when they go out into the field, they will have learned that that scent is a good source of food, and they will be attracted to the flowers.
So essentially, you're making their foraging very targeted,
Yes.
rather than going out and maybe getting distracted because there's a oilseed rape field next door,
Precisely.
or someone's got borage in their garden or something. They are only going to be honed in to that strawberry scent because that is the one that they've learned will reward them with nice food.
Yes.
In the future, the plan is to train whole armies of bees to pollinate strawberries. Our strawberries have been pollinated and need to ripen in the summer sun.
So this straw is just a way of keeping the fruits in pristine condition, ready for Raymond to work his magic.
After a couple of weeks, the strawberries are ripe and ready for Raymond to harvest. Joe's protected the precious fruits from birds and squirrels with a net, but a rather different urban pest has got to them.
Oh my God, I'm really upset because here was some magnificent row of beautiful strawberries, body varieties, and all has been stolen.
Almost all Raymond's beloved strawberries have gone.
You may accuse me to become Inspector Clouseau, to play Inspector Clouseau. I am not, but I can see a clue here. I can show you. Somebody has taken that peg out in order to remove the net and steal as many strawberries as possible. and I have no strawberries for my dessert. That's not good, is it?
Thankfully, the crisis is soon averted.
As ever, I have my savior, Adam. Okay, we went out this morning to find some strawberries.
Raymond's making frozen strawberry tartlets with vanilla whipped cream and meringue.
Voilà.
First, he macerates the strawberries to soften them, releasing juice and flavour. This is usually done with a sprinkling of sugar, but Raymond's got an alternative.
I'm going to do a secret here. Instead of sugar, I'm going to use stevia.
Stevia is a sugar substitute extracted from the leaves of the plant Stevia rebaudiana.
The leaf, I think, is very sweet, very, very sweet, about 25 to 30 times sweeter than sugar. But your blood sugar level doesn't go up, it just goes through your metabolism and it's not absorbed by it. It's a little miracle of its own. Voilà.
Raymond constructs moulds for the frozen tartlet cases.
Got a nice square out of it.
He stretches cling film over round pastry cutters.
Nice and straight, voilà.
Lines them with cake acetate.
Nice and neatly.
And puts them in the freezer to cool. Then the macerated strawberries are liquidized to make a puree.
So if I find my top, yes, here it is. What a lovely color. Look at that lovely color. It's an interesting... Oh, stop. Stop. Yes, thank you.
This puree will be used to make the frozen cases, starting with the base.
Voilà, just in the middle, it will spread itself.
Which must be allowed to freeze.
The base is frozen, so I'm going to take this ring, okay, to concentric.
Raymond now builds the tartlet walls onto the frozen base.
More that way. So then, when you remove the outer and the inside concentric circle, steel circle, you have the perfect tartlet mold. And I can bring them back into deep freeze and fill them, garnish them whenever I want. Okay, so that you can do it at least 1 day or 1 year in advance. But it's better 1 day rather than 1 year.
Now he prepares the filling.
Voilà, so macerate them nicely.
Raymond makes a creme chantilly with whipping cream, stevia and vanilla puree.
So you bring as much air as possible inside.
Ideally, he wants to make a thick, firm cream so it maintains its shape in the tartlet.
You can see it's thickening now. Beautiful. That's lovely. That's perfect. No more. Now my strawberries are nicely macerated. I'll add them to my whipped cream. Look at these colors merging within each other.
Now the frozen tartlets can be filled.
So what you do, move the cling film away. So now undo the acetic. Then after, simply warm up your hand, your inside your finger. And if you have warm hands like me, you are lucky and you are going to defrost the inner circle and voila. And you get the perfect tartlet mold.
First to go in is a layer of low-sugar strawberry jam.
That adds a nice bit of texture, and texture is important. Different flavor as well, sweetness. Then you add your beautiful strawberries with cream. Oh, lovely. Voila.
The cream is topped with the sliced strawberries.
Voila.
And then Raymond is crumbling meringue onto the plates.
So they don't slide around. Voila. Little tricks. Tiny little bit of a design. That's really the taste of summer. Very cool taste of summer. Perfect.
Trees swaying in the summer breeze, showing off their silver leaves as we walked by.
It's July, and the beans are almost ready to harvest. But I'm a bit concerned about the garlic.
Joe, this garlic is not looking very happy.
Yeah, what you've spotted there is garlic rust.
Right.
And actually, probably on your hand now, you've got tons of tiny little orange spores.
I have.
Yeah. So if you look carefully, you can see you've got these pustules. Not a very nice word.
No, not a very nice word.
Rust is a fungal disease that thrives in warm, damp conditions and spreads like wildfire. We must keep a close eye on the garlic because if the rust spreads to the bulbs, it could devastate the crop. Garlic came to our shores with the Romans 2,000 years ago. But it wasn't until the 1950s that it properly entered our cuisine.
In Britain, we now eat as much, if not more, garlic than they do in France. About 40,000 tonnes of it a year. Now I'm heading out there to the Isle of Wight, which is where most of the UK's garlic is grown.
Garlic grower Colin Boswell has unearthed a remarkable story that begins back in the Second World War, when France was under Nazi occupation.
The French Navy that had escaped from France was stationed in Cowes, and they used to go to a pub called the Painter's Arms.
Right.
They asked the publican Bill Spidey if he could get them some garlic, because the food was so bad in wartime Britain, certainly wartime Isle of Wight, that they needed garlic and they couldn't find any.
Bill's friend, Pilot Officer Bridger of the RAF, flew secret missions between the Isle of Wight and Nazi-occupied France. So he hatched a plan.
On October 27, 1942, Pilot Officer Bridger landed in the Auvergne.
Yeah.
2 agents got off and 2 sacks of garlic were put on.
No.
Bill grew garlic for the French for the rest of the war. And I had this corroborated by a charming lady who's 92 now.
Yeah.
And she said, I was in the control tower at RAF Tangmere for 4 years during the war. She said, I remember a pilot coming in with a sack and it smelt. I now know what was in it. It smelt of garlic.
What an astonishing
After 70
story.
years, we made that connection.
Ever since, garlic has been grown here on the Isle of Wight, and Colin got in on the act in the 1970s.
And there's definitely an increasing market for it.
Yeah, the 2 most successful restaurant dishes of the 1980s was garlic bread and chicken Kiev. And no self-respecting Frenchman would ever eat a dish with quite so much garlic in. But the British loved it. The British adored it.
Today, 70% of British-grown garlic comes from the Isle of Wight. Back in our garden, the last few days have seen heavy rain, washing the garlic rust down to the bulbs.
I think we've just about got there in time, but well, if you look at that one, that's completely gone.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
trouble.
just the rust.
Yeah, so well, it's the rust, and we've had a few wet days.
It's now in danger of taking out the entire crop.
This one here's got quite a bit of rot in it. You know, a few days of rain this late, and you can really jeopardise it.
Yeah, that
But
one.
I think we've just about got away with it, which is a relief.
Don't have to suffer the wrath of the Frenchman if he hasn't got enough garlic.
Although we've lost some, the majority are fine and will be left out to dry in the warm summer sun. Kew specialises in plants that grow in hot conditions, collected from all over the world. The Princess of Wales Conservatory is home to tropical species like bananas and pineapples. But tucked away in a corner is an unremarkable-looking tree, bearing a remarkable fruit.
This is the plant, this is Theobroma cacao, and it's the tree that you get chocolate from. It's incredible. Theobroma means food of the gods.
How appropriate.
Yeah. And it has these amazing tiny little flowers.
That's the flower?
Yeah. But what's really interesting is what pollinates it. And it's pollinated by midges.
No way. The most hated insect, perhaps second only to mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But they do have a use.
Yeah, they do. They pollinate these. And then from these tiny flowers, you get these huge pods.
Within these pods lie the prized cacao beans, which is why they've been cultivated in Central and South America for at least 2,000 years.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go.
Look at that. Goodness. So is that the seed?
Yeah, inside that.
Inside
piece.
there?
Yeah.
Is that now the thing that becomes cocoa?
Yes. So you need to ferment it, you need to dry it, you need to roast it, and then you need to make chocolate.
So you can't just eat that and it'll taste of the most perfect 70% dark chocolate.
The first cacao beans arrived on our shores in 1585, and it wasn't long before chocolate was all the rage with royalty. To see how it was prepared, I'm meeting food historian Mark Meltonville in Hampton Court Palace's chocolate kitchen.
Giving a chocolate a dedicated room, all of its own, gives it an astonishing status, surely.
Oh, it was. I mean, this is the luxury food
Right.
of the early Georgian era. It's so expensive, and if you're a king, better than just buying chocolate from a shop in London. You have your own chocolate chef who has his own chocolate kitchen.
Mark's making a hot chocolate drink to a 300-year-old recipe, as enjoyed by King George I. The fermented and roasted cacao beans are shelled and ground into a fine powder.
Grind the nibs in whichever way you find convenient, because it needs to be convenient, because you're going to be doing it for, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, maybe more.
Really?
To melt the powdered chocolate, the grinding slab is heated.
I'm beginning to see now why it had to be the drink of kings, because it is hugely work-intensive, isn't it, producing this stuff?
And the nice thing about being king is you don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
After 6 hours of grinding, the smooth paste is scraped off the stone onto wax paper. The chocolate is remelted, then sugar, pepper, aniseed and cardamoms are added.
Right, that is smelling completely wonderful.
Unlike modern chocolate, where the cocoa butter is removed and used in cosmetics, in this recipe, no fat is required, just hot water.
Oh my goodness, look at that. It looks like velvet.
And there's no fat in there other than the chocolate. That's pure chocolate making that.
Wow.
The result is a drink fit for a king.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
And this is customary done at breakfast time, so this is your breakfast drink. So you get a little taste of royal breakfast.
How lovely. Do I have to stick my finger out?
I think you should. It's chocolate and sweet first, and then all the complex flavours start turning up.
That is a properly grown-up drink,
This
isn't it?
is a very adult, very rich, dark, spiced drink. It's got almost dangerous edge to it.
Oh, it's heavenly.
Raymond wants to use this rich taste of South America in his next dish.
Oh, that reminds me, home sweet home. That brings me back when I was about 6 or 7. I was too small to reach the very top.
In our garden, the French beans are crying out to be harvested. They can be eaten both ripe and dried.
Voila. That one is just perfectly ripe, okay? And this one, you can, okay, is semi-dried, okay? It's drying onto the plant. And actually you can take this bean, that bean will regrow a full plant, okay? Or you can keep it and dry it, put it in a jar, ready for eating during the winter. Oh my God. Voila. I think it's enough. Okay, to the kitchen. Let's go. Here's my little harvest. This dish is really truly the celebration of the vegetables, the celebration of the herbs, the celebration of our garden here, just next door.
Raymond's cooking a bean and vegetable chili, a recipe devised by one of his protégés, Bruno Loubet.
Imagine this former carnivorous person from Bordeaux used to eat tons of meat, now is converted completely his cuisine to vegetables.
First, Raymond pods the French beans.
Look at that, these little beds, you know, for my beans. They have beautiful little cushion here of velvet. They're made for princess. So stop it, Raymond. That's really bad.
It's getting over romantic again. Instead of minced beef, Raymond is putting in over 10 types of vegetables. As well as beans, half an onion, a pepper.
So now my celery, my fennel for sweetness.
Half a red chili.
That's not only 5 a day, this dish is 10 a day.
2 carrots.
I leave the skin on, perfectly okay.
And of course, our garlic.
Voilà, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh yes, 4. At least 4, yes, definitely. Or maybe 5. No, 4 is enough.
Then the vegetables are coarsely diced to create the texture of minced beef.
So use the pulse, that's the best way. You control everything. This is going to create that wonderful meaty texture as well.
Button mushrooms, too, are diced. The vegetables are then sweated together in rapeseed oil.
Très bien. I'm going to blanch my beans here.
Blanching softens the beans and removes any bitterness.
I put all my beautiful cooked tomatoes.
To create the sauce, tomato puree, ginger and piquillo peppers are added.
Oh, amazing flavors.
Then the staple of any chili, kidney beans, are thrown in, together with our blanched French beans.
Okay? Some are older and some are younger. That's why the difference of colors. The smells are quite unbelievable here, quite amazing. And there's no meat whatsoever, it's just vegetables.
Next, in go the spices. There's coriander, cumin, cayenne pepper, and smoked paprika.
I'm going to put very little salt because there's natural salt content as well. In each vegetable, there's always a sodium content in vegetables as much as there is in meat. So remember that as well.
The vegetable chili is then slowly cooked, and the whole lot gently simmered.
Voila. Yes.
After 50 minutes, the vegetables are ready, and Raymond adds a taste of South America to the Mexican dish.
This chocolate is 100% cocoa bean, okay? No sugar added, no cream, no butter, nothing, just on its own. And it's absolutely delicious. I love it this way. And that will give a wonderful rounded flavor. Fits so perfectly this dish. Voila.
Finally, to give it a bit more punch, in goes Worcester sauce, chili sauce,
a little bit, that's all.
And Raymond's new discovery, brown sauce.
And I must tell you, about a year ago, I tasted my first bacon and brown sauce sandwiches. At first I said, no way, no sandwich, no brown sauce, never in my life. On my dead body. 2 minutes after, I was reveling in the joy and the deliciousness of bacon and brown sauce. That added a new dimensions to my cuisine. Here it is. So here.
Raymond is serving it with brown rice.
Oh, lovely. Look, home sweet home. You want that simplicity here and complexity here, okay? Feel good, strong wrist. Okay, lovely. It's that perfect motion. The flavor, the smell of chili con carne, but it's done all with spices, sea sauces, and vegetables. Bon appetit. That is really hot and special.
As summer draws to a close, there's just one more crop to harvest. The gooseberries. These unassuming, hairy little berries pack an incredible punch. But I'm a bit concerned ours are looking a little small. As usual, Joe comes to the rescue.
If we remove every other fruit,
right,
then, you know, the plant is going to put more of its energy into producing one big fruit rather than trying to produce a whole crop.
Okay.
And then in about a month's time, we should have some bigger ones.
Gooseberries are native to the cool alpine regions of Europe and the Himalayas. They came to Britain in Norman times and were quite at home in the cool, damp climate of northern England. Here, growing gooseberries became a popular hobby with those working in the textile industry, who were well enough off to have their own gardens. The first gooseberry competition was established in the North Yorkshire village of Ep-2 Bridge, and it's still going today. I've come to meet some of this year's growers.
So how many gooseberry shows are there in the country, Ian?
Now there's only 9 surviving. There's the one here in Ep-2 Bridge,
yeah,
and there's 8 in Cheshire.
And why do you think the one here at Ep-2 Bridge has survived as long as it has?
Do you know what? I really don't know, but it's the oldest gooseberry show in the world. First happened in 1800.
Yeah.
It's happened every single year with one exception, when unfortunately we had to cancel it because of the foot-and-mouth outbreak.
Right.
But
so
it survived
even during
wars.
the wars?
Oh, it carried on.
That's extraordinary.
You can't let a small thing like a war interrupt a gooseberry show.
There are categories for heaviest twin and heaviest individual berry, of which Graham Watson is the current champion.
This particular one there weighs,
yeah,
53 grams. So
this was your prize winner from this year?
That one this year.
Am I allowed to?
Absolutely.
So, you won. Was this best in show, basically?
That was the
year?
heaviest berry in the show, yes.
And it weighs 53 grams.
53 grams.
That's as heavy as an egg. But it pales into insignificance next to Brian Nellist's world record-breaking berry. That weighed in at a whopping 62 grams.
So, Brian, you'd have wiped the floor with Graham.
Well, that particular year, but it was very much a one-off, that.
Any secrets, Brian? How did you achieve a 62-gram gooseberry?
Well, it just happened. I didn't do anything.
I'm sure that's not true. He's being all secretive.
He won't tell us.
Am I allowed to try one before your colleague?
Yeah.
So this one here. I feel terrible biting into your prize-winning red gooseberry. Right. Oh my goodness. That's like no gooseberry I've ever eaten before. It's so sweet. I feel slightly guilty, but only slightly, for eating your prize-winning red berry. Beautiful.
Our rather more modest gooseberries are also ready to harvest.
Where are you? Ah, yes. She was hiding for me. The Inamaki variety here has performed immensely well, beyond expectation. It's a small miracle of its own. Oh, look at that. And tears. I must confess, I never cooked, ever, gooseberries before. For me, it's a big challenge because they're tarty, they're acid, they're sour, they need so much sugar, and I didn't know what to do with them.
For his maiden gooseberry dish, Raymond settled on a cheesecake, topped with green gooseberry jelly and served with a red gooseberry compote. The base of a cheesecake is traditionally made using crushed digestive biscuits, but of course Raymond's making his own version, using wholemeal and rye flour, sugar and butter.
Just crumble it.
Jumbo oats are then added and bound together with an egg.
So I'm a human machine, a human mixer.
It can now be rolled out.
Okay, that's the technique. Roll it.
The cheesecake base is baked at 180 degrees for 15 minutes.
Okay, so now I'm going to create the flavor, the beautiful mousse.
Raymond is using cream cheese, mixed with creme fraiche to give it a sourness. Then in goes vanilla puree.
It's that beautiful puree.
Lemon juice.
So yeah, absolutely lovely.
And to firm it up, gelatin.
Now I'm going to prepare the lifting part.
To give the mixture lightness, Raymond's making an Italian meringue. He starts by whisking 4 egg whites.
Pull on, tiny dash of lemon juice, plenty. So you have the cream cheese over there and the lifting part here.
Rather than being baked, an Italian meringue uses hot sugar syrup, which must be heated to 121 degrees.
Perfect. So they're ready, and pour the syrup.
The hot sugar syrup essentially cooks the egg whites as it's poured in.
The Italian meringue will give you the lightness, the fluffiness, the delicate texture.
After 2 minutes, the meringue can be carefully folded into the cheesecake mix.
So you can see quite firm. That's what the sugar has done to it. And now fold it. Our mousse is beautifully mixed, ready.
The oat base is removed from the oven.
Nice blonde color.
While it's still warm, the cake tin is pressed into the base.
Voila.
The mousse is poured in, leaving a gap for the gooseberry jelly. It must now be refrigerated for 2 hours to firm up. So meanwhile, Raymond makes the green gooseberry jelly to go on top and a red gooseberry compote to go on the side. First, he adds sugar to the gooseberries.
I want my gooseberry to be triumphant and punchy.
Then they're cooked in a small amount of water. The red gooseberries are crushed to make the compote.
Très bien. That's lovely. Perfect.
The green gooseberries for the jelly are liquidized.
Of course, I could do a gelée just by straining it, but I'm much more interested in flavor. And the flavor is as much in the skin as it is actually in the flesh. Voila.
Then gelatin is added.
And we're going to strain it. Voila.
Once the cheesecake has set, Raymond pours over the green gooseberry jelly.
It should set very quickly, of course, from the cold inside here. Perfect.
And then it's topped with sliced fresh berries.
A little touch, okay, of love, of care, okay? That's perfect. And you leave it quietly overnight. Slip it off.
Raymond's gooseberry cheesecake is ready, and as we all know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
That is properly gooseberry green. Okay.
Voila. And here's a little bit of compote here, very nicely. That's for me.
That's it. Okay, fine.
Do I pass the test?
Okay. This is amazing, this cheesecake. Having that lovely, you know, summery tartness. It's a great combination. But I would almost want a little bit more green gooseberry jelly because when you mix it with the compote, you really get the gooseberry flavour.
I will work assiduously, okay, every day on my gooseberry cooking, okay? And maybe I'll be able to surprise you very soon, Kate.
I'd be very happy. Very happy to be surprised. But in the meantime, as a first attempt, not half bad, I'd say.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very grateful. I am so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Next time on Q on a Plate, it's autumn and there's an abundance of wholesome flavours from the garden.
Homegrown, heritage variety. The world is perfect.
Raymond experiments with growing mushrooms.
Oh la la! Look at this fantastic oyster mushroom, ready for the saucepan.
I reveal the true story of the French onion seller.
You see, phosphorus strings, they can turn and turn. Not a problem. I'm going to check yours in a minute.
Oh no! And we sample the delights of a seasonal classic.
Here's to autumn.
It's actually very good. It is that good, is it?
And we'll be back at Q again next Monday at 9. Experiencing the food fads of the 1960s, including the birth of ready meals. BBC Two is back in time for dinner tomorrow at 8. But next night, Vic and Bob have a problem. No plot for tonight's House of Fools. Next.